Welcome, everyone, to our latest NCAA social series. I'm Andy Katz. On this edition of our show, we're going to look at Hispanic Heritage Month. We're going to hear from an athletic administrator at a Power 5 school and a female student athlete at a Power 5 institution. That's all coming up on the NCAA social series. And now joining me, Ben Rodriguez, newly at Rutgers. He's the Director of Development of Major Gifts at Rutgers University in New Jersey. And Ben, let's start first off on just the overarching Hispanic Heritage Month. What does it mean to you?
Man, it means a lot. And first off, I'm glad, thanks for having me on, Andy. And, for me, just glad that that's something that we continue to focus on, right? And, as someone growing up, and the last time we had a conversation, I talked about my experiences in high school and college, and even now on the athletics administration side. Just seeing a focus on it and knowing that, we're all trying to help grow representation for Hispanics in the industry, to me, it just means a lot.
All right, so let's talk about that since the last time you were on, and we're specifically talking about CAASA, which is the Latinx Association of Collegiate Athletic Administrators and Student Athletes. From basically 2021 to 2022, academic years, where are we in terms of recruitment, engagement, and plans going forward? So you can sort of rattle those off, 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, for sure. So just talking about some of the things that we've done as a group, and it's not just me, right? We've got a team of a few others that have helped out with this. And so some of the things in year one, it was about creating awareness of La Casa, right? And this was really done through word of mouth, grassroots efforts, just trying to have as many conversations with as many different people as we could. Again, just to kind of get awareness of our group and what we're trying to do, our mission and our vision. Some things that we did last year, we hosted several webinars with different schools and organizations to share data, explore some of the challenges, and then ultimately talk about ways in which we could all be a part of what the solution is going to be in terms of trying to grow representation of Hispanic student athletes and administrators throughout the country. We had conversations with several schools about creating La Casa affinity groups on their campuses. And so those conversations are ongoing, and we'll get some of those going here soon. We created a list of Hispanic administrators, right? So anyone that is interested in diversifying their pool, which a lot of folks, have a focus on that now. We've got a list of Hispanic administrators to help with that. And going into year two, we're talking about, the conference that we've had our eyes set on for a little bit, right? So actually making that happen. So year two, that'll be big for us. Hosting more virtual networking sessions, that's going to be huge for us as well. And then ultimately looking at different membership models, right? And there's a lot of folks, when we launched this last year, a lot of folks are interested, a lot of folks want to help. So looking at different, the different membership models to see more specific ways for folks to engage and help the cause.
All right, so let's go back to a new recruit comes on campus, a new freshman, excuse me, who is Hispanic. How does that student athlete know that La Casa exists, that at some point in that freshman year, or if they transferred in, that they can engage with this national organization or collection of Hispanic student athletes and administrators?
Yeah, well, so the first thing I'll say is going back to those affinity groups, right? The more we can get those around different universities, different campuses, I think that's going to be a huge help with that. So we have a few, for example, we've got there's one out here in Jersey, there's one out in Illinois, and then we have a few out in the Texas area that have expressed interest in doing this. So from our perspective, if a student athlete gets on campus, having them get connected to a La Casa affinity group from the jump, that to me, that's the best way to do this, right? Again, grassroots efforts, trying to grow our membership some more, having that conference. We have a really good relationship with different affinity groups outside of Hispanic affinity groups around the country. So to me, it'll take some time, but I think the more we continue to do that, continue to have these conversations, have folks like you highlight some of the work that we're trying to do, and then also have those partnerships, I think we'll continue to grow this.
When things happen, and I'm speaking specifically of, natural disasters, Puerto Rico, certain parts of Florida, but especially Puerto Rico, that has dramatically affected a number of Puerto Rican student athletes. whether they originally were from there, still have family there. How does La CAASA reach out to individuals like that when to engage when a lot of these things sort of pop up in the mainstream media and then they sort of disappear with the next big news cycle?
Yeah, Andy, that's a great question. And quite honestly, we've not gotten there yet. For us, it's a conversation that we've had. So part of the group overall is there's going to be a community service component to that, all right, community outreach component to that. We've had some of those conversations, haven't been able to act on it just yet. So tough for me to answer that, but it is something that, like you, we acknowledge that there is help that's needed there. And I think as the group continues to have those conversations and flesh out different ideas, to me, I think that's a really great way for us to try to get involved and just find different ways that we can help.
Yeah, and I think more than anything, and I want to be clear here, La CAASA is in its infancy in the larger scale of college athletics. What we have found in doing this show is, so many groups that feel marginalized feel isolated when certain things happen. And so then it's, how can they feel a connection to someone else who may be feeling those same emotions, whether they're on their campus or somewhere else around the country. And so I'm sure that that's the network that you want to hope to continue to build here from the ground up.
Yeah. And to that point, there are different conferences around the country that there is a community service component to an actual conference, right? So for example, NACDA, I know N4A, for example, they have a community service component right before NACDA kicks off for the week. As we're getting ready to host a conference in the fall, that for us is a model that we want to emulate, right? So we definitely are going to have a community service aspect to that. It may be to help those that are dealing with some of those natural disasters and whatnot. So we'll just have to kind of figure that out and flesh that out. But agree, no, it's something that's important, and as an organization, we definitely are going to get behind at some point.
Now, we've mentioned and sort of hinted at this conference. What do you envision that becoming, if I'm not mistaken, you say in the fall, so in a year's time?
Yeah, so for us, we want to model this after the Black Student Athlete Summit. That was where this idea was born, going back a couple of years ago now. And so I think they do a great job of bringing folks together from around the country, different levels, high level executives, presidents of universities, ADs of universities, coaches, student athletes, the whole deal. So that's what we want to do, bring folks together, share research, have conversations about some of the challenges, facing Hispanic and Latino people around the country in college athletics, and then really see where it grows from there, right? We don't want to detail it out too much. We just want to bring folks together, and there are people way smarter than me that, we can get together and just have them run with it. Ultimately too, I think having it be in the college athletic space, but Andy, I think we talked the first time around about bringing it down to the high school level as well, right? And trying to impact some folks before they even get to the college space.
Ben, how much are you a product of, what I think you hope others will follow in terms of your path of climbing up that, Division I ladder or a college athletics ladder, that now you're at a Power 5 school in Rutgers in the Big Ten? How much has your path been one that hopefully others can follow?
You know what, Andy, it's a great point. For me, it starts with my father. He went to school to play baseball at Fordham, and for me, he was the first role model for what a college athlete could be. And so from there have been others that have helped along the way. And as you know, the last time we spoke, there's not a lot of us, right, in college athletics, but the few that are there have been super helpful and have been more than welcoming and have kind of guided me along the way. So yeah, for us, that's part of La CAASA. That's what we want to get to, where those that are there now, we want to make it where those that are coming behind us have a much easier job and again continue to grow this thing. So to your point, again, yes, a product of those that came before me, and hopefully we can all do our part to grow this thing some more.
One last thing, Ben, in a lot of the sort of Olympic sports, you're going to find Spanish speaking student athletes from other parts of the world, whether it's from South America or Mexico or Spain. where do they fall into this, and how much outreach does there need to be of trying to engage them into this La CAASA community?
Yeah, another really good point. Hispanic, and it's kind of overarching, and then those that are from the islands, so, Puerto Rico, Dominican Republic, Cuba, very different culture than what you have in Central America and then South America. So it's intentionally broad from that perspective. But even looking at the founding members, right? We've got folks that are speak Spanish, some that don't speak Spanish, right? Some that identify with the Black culture as well. So bringing all of those folks together initially, and then going back to an earlier question you asked, a conference, I can see smaller subgroups kind of forming naturally, organically from this larger group, right? And so to us, I think we all share a lot of similar challenges, but when we all come together, breaking down some of the different challenges across the way, that's going to be really, for me, that's going to be really fun, right? To see that, because I'm coming from a background where my grandparents were born in Puerto Rico, so I've got a strong affinity there. But I myself will learn a lot more about other cultures, and to me, that's the beauty of what La CAASA, I think, can bring to the table.
Ben, I appreciate it. I know we will continue to engage with you, and we want you to keep updating us as we get closer to obviously this goal of having this conference. Congratulations on your new job at Rutgers, and stay in touch.
All right, Andy, thank you. Appreciate it.
And joining me now, Marice Aguiar from Boston College's women's tennis player. She's the #1 singles and doubles player at BC. And Marice, let's first start in general. What does Hispanic Heritage Month mean to you?
For me, I feel like it's a great opportunity for Latinos and Latinas to like get together and like share like their experiences, and also like share our like, for example, like food preferences from like our home and everything, and share it with like everyone else. So I feel like that's what it means to me.
Student athletes across the country, especially those that may not feel that they've sort of found their way. How critical is it for Hispanic student athletes to find that connection when in a lot of cases, on a lot of campuses, you may be the only one?
I feel like it's really important to get to know people that are like in the same page as you, because I feel like, for example, my first year here at BC, I was like a little bit alone in that kind of sense, because you're entering something new and like such a big part of your life. And I feel like knowing people that are like in the same like in the same page, or like in the same like situation as you, I feel like it's something that like could help you go through like other experiences.
What would be the best way for student athletes, whether it's on a campus, in a conference, or across the country, to be connected?
Maybe like social media could be like a great way to like bring people together.
You are from Puerto Rico.
Yeah.
When I saw you in person a couple of weeks ago in Newport at the ITHF women's doubles tournament, that was right after Hurricane Fiona. And that struck obviously very personally to you, because that's your, where you're from, and had been devastated. So first off, let me just find out, just how are things going for you from what you can tell at home?
So my family right now they're doing pretty well. The hurricane didn't affect my area as much as other areas in Puerto Rico, so I'm really thankful for that. But I really do, sympathize with like the people that are struggling, because there are still people struggling with like getting food and water and things like that. But thank God that my family's doing well.
All right, well, that's good to hear. But in that same vein, how can student athletes and organizations across the NCAA help when there are natural disasters in communities like Puerto Rico, to get that word out, to get the help?
I feel like even like interviews, like interviewing like people that are like from those places, like how you did to me, and like put that on social media so that people can hear about it and say like, oh, like I want to help, and like I want to give food, water. And I feel like that's a good way help in those situations.
Well, and we did that certainly a couple of weeks ago, and the help still is there.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate in our news cycle, then here comes Hurricane Ian in Florida, and Puerto Rico sort of gets lost. As a Puerto Rican student athlete coming north to Boston College, what was that experience like, or what has it been like in that transition from Puerto Rico to BC?
It was definitely very different. I come from literally warm weather, and here you just right into the cold. But I feel like it was hard at first because I would get like homesick, and I would also with my Spanish, like I would, I'm like used to speaking Spanish all the time, and then going to a place where you only speak English is, it's tough. But I got used to it, and I love it here.
The other thing, your doubles partner, Laura Lopez, she's from, if I'm not mistaken, Barcelona. And, there is this tendency that, Hispanics are not monolithic. Puerto Ricans different than Cubans, Mexicans, Spanish. How can those connections occur, but also celebrate the diversity within the Hispanic community here in Hispanic Heritage Month? So that it's not just sort of a blanket celebration when there's so many different cultures and communities within that giant umbrella.
Yeah. When I entered the BC women's tennis team, when I found out that Laura was from Spain, I would in my mind was like, oh my God, thank God someone speaks Spanish in the team. So I feel like, yeah, it's really good to know people from all around Cuba or even Spain, because you can know you can relate to them because of they speak Spanish, but you can also differentiate from them because it's totally different.
How can administrators better help student athletes who come from primarily Spanish speaking backgrounds?
Maybe creating a meeting where all Latinos or Spanish speaking people can communicate and feel comfortable in that environment. And yeah, I feel like just getting to talk with people could be good.
Especially in your sport, men's and women's tennis recruit internationally all the time. A lot of the coaches do not speak these languages. How has that been in terms of, even the recruiting process of dealing with the language barrier?
It's tough because sometimes when I try to express something, it doesn't come out the way that I wanted it to be. But I feel like my coach, he knows and he understands. So I feel like it's fine.
This is also a population that is growing within college athletics. In your brief career here, when you're going around and playing other schools around the country, how much are you seeing at least the beginnings of more Spanish speaking women's tennis players or student athletes, even on the BC campus, or in the ACC, in the past, at least couple of years?
Yeah, I've seen a lot of student athletes speaking Spanish. So I remember the other day I was going to my class and there was this golf player, and I would just talk in English, and she was like, oh, I'm from Dominican Republic. And I was like, oh, I was just so amazed. And I was talking about this with my roommate that's from Venezuela, which is also on the BC tennis team. We've been noticing a lot of Latinos and in the different sports more often. So I feel like that's great.
One last thing, Marice, this is great in the student athlete community. The next level of coaches, administrators, athletic directors, commissioners, that pool is really small. What do you hope we see in 5 years, 10 years within the college athletic space in the growth of Hispanics rising up within college athletics?
Hopefully there could be more, because right now I feel like a lot of coaches and a lot of trainers and everyone is American, which is nothing bad, of course, but I would personally I would like to see more people that speak Spanish around that environment. So I feel like everyone could be good.
Well, Marice, you're off to a great start this year with BC. Continued great success. I appreciate your time.
Thank you so much.
And again, a thank you to our guests, Ben Rodriguez and Marice Aguiar. As always, you can go to ncaa.org/social series, where all our social series are archived. Thanks for watching, everyone.